Well, this video is going to primarily be about don't trust your government, and we're going to show a highlight here of the Arthur G. Dozier School for Boys in Marianna, in near Tallahassee, Florida, on the Panhandle. Um, this might not be a well-known story, but this was going on for 111 years since 1900. Finally closed down in 2011. But let me just say, I don't think this is the end of this evil. And my point on this video is I'm going to tell you and show you how government's pulling the wool over our eyes, the major media is pulling our wool over our eyes, and also that the government is not the solution to our problems. We are the solution to our problems. And I'm actually going to knock some of our allegedly great leaders that are in the major media and put forth other people that are not told by the major media. So this was a boys' school, primarily. More African Americans, black kids were sent to this school than whites, but it was a mixture. This was going on in modern times. There was beatings. And this article doesn't go into it. I mean, this is actually Wikipedia goes into it even deeper than his supposed article that supposedly is the cutting edge, But I went into a lot of different stories on this, and I had to do a lot of, and I can't put all of it out here, but there were regular beatings, rapes, and even murders by staff members. Now you're talking homosexual rapes of young boys, and they had a rape room, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which I'm sure they knew all about this for umpteen years, they announced the presence of 31 grave sites in 2010. There's 100 grave sites, over 100 grave sites. But, using a little common sense, I'll guarantee you there's way more murders than that, because there's plenty of swampland and alligators in Florida that you can make people totally disappear. So, and considering this was going on for 111 years since it closed, before it closed, well, that's telling you that the corruption is at the top. And I'm going to say a couple things on here because, the pedophile stuff that's going on with Pizzagate, I'll guarantee you this is somehow linked with very top people in government, and that's not just at the federal level, but it's at state levels and everything else. And also there was a lot of common causes of deaths were infectious disease. So you can make somebody live in an infectious hellhole and they could die, and you could say it was natural causes, but you caused this torturous death of this person, and it's like you didn't do anything per se in a way where it was obvious, where you beat the person to death. You caused the person to have an infectious disease and die. So there was a lot of that going on. They also called the White House boys. That was a small white building on 1,400 acres. Now 1,400 acres is big because you have 640 acres to a square mile. So this is over 2 square miles. So where children were as young as 5 years old were chained to walls and tied to a bed and beaten. And a lot of people, they work in these state institutions for the government, they get off on beating people. That's why they work in the prison systems. That's why I'm really kind of praying that the government goes under and the private sector thrives, because one thing I want to see is since the government and the police, and I don't really necessarily knock the police. I got a lot more problem with the people that run these institutions and prison systems, where they're not out there in the public dealing with a criminal perpetrator. They got the person who's supposedly committed a crime, which sometimes they didn't, behind bars, and they got absolute power. I got problems with those kind of people. I got a lot less problems with the police. I think there's some rotten apples, but there's, by and large, they're not screwed up. And they were beaten for like the most minor infractions, like taking a extra couple strawberries with their meal or whatever. There was another one incident where they saw a boy who was dead that came out of a dryer. They put him in a dryer and they killed him. No criminal case has ever been made. Never. Never. In the entire 111 years in the state of Florida. Now, I want to get on to something else here because I don't want to really necessarily pick on this Jeb Bush guy completely. Jeb, I don't even, he uses his name. I don't know when he started using this, but it's John Ellis Bush. I guess if you said you call him John or Ellis, it wouldn't sound too like Jeb Stewart or something. It has a nice ring to it, Jeb's, for the southern-minded people. This guy wasn't really all bad, but I'm going to point out one thing. He was so hell-bent on taking down the Confederate flag off the state capital of Florida, right, which is here. It was actually on the state capitol grounds, right? He was so well, this was South Carolina, excuse me, but, this is South Carolina. You see, they got the palmetto tree. But he was so hell-bent from taking it down off the state capitol, saying it was a thing of racism, which it's not. It has to do with limited government. But he was governor for freaking 8 years while all this stuff was going on in that hellhole of a boys' place, whatever the hell you want to whatever you want to call it, right under his nose. I mean, his state capital is in Tallahassee. This was located very close to the state capital in the same county, going on every single day. But he's all freaking worried about, and it primarily going on against young black youths. Okay? Now, I'll drop another bomb on you about this guy because H.W. Bush, the father, has been known by many on the inside to have a little fetish for young, slim, black teens sexually. Whatever, man. I mean, if you want to go look it up, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of freaking people on the inside have said this, and you could probably Google the hell out of it and find it everywhere. I knew about it before the internet was around, and it was I knew about it like when the internet was around, when you had 386 computer. Pentium wasn't even out. We're using, I think it was 8-bit technology or something. And the internet was basically a bulletin board. And I didn't get it off the internet. I got it off of videotapes of testimony by people that were officers in the military that said it was true about H.W. Bush, his father. And, of course, Prescott Bush was involved in that bank with the Nazis. I don't like any of these guys, man. But he's not all bad. I mean, to just say that the Democrats are better. I've never voted for a Democrat in my life, okay? I'll just tell you that right now. I never did. Now, one thing that kind of bugs me is I just put a video out about, the Confederate flag license plate for Florida, which I think there's 9 states that have it. Texas should have it. Republican Rick Perry blocked it. There was some legislature effort to block the Confederate flag plate in Florida. But, no problem getting police, athletic league, police, right? Support law enforcement. And I'm not anti-law enforcement, okay? Florida Sheriff's Association, which I'm a member of, I don't think they're all bad. I mean, my opinion on police is they're mostly good, but there's rotten apples, and the rotten apples generally don't get vetted out very quick, so it really tarnishes my images of the police, but overall I think you're okay. And Florida Sheriff's youth ranches, and I hope, even though I've heard stories, I hope this Florida Sheriff's youth ranches, which I support financially, is not like, and that might be a naive hope, is not like what was going on in his boys' school, the Arthur G. Dozier. Now, this Arthur G. Dozier was it was named. It was originally called I think it was the Florida School Boys, Florida School for Boys in Florida, and it was later named Arthur G. Dozier after the superintendent. Now, Arthur G. Dozier doesn't go into this article, but I'm going to tell you right now that Arthur G. Dozier personally beat the crap out of these boys. It's telling you. I don't. It also tells me what the hell's wrong with Christianity. Where's the Christians? You know, if I insult Jesus, they're all up in arms. But if this goes on left and right, oh well, the Lord will take care of it. Well, I'm putting something out right now. Okay, that's what it is. Now, for you people that keep associating hate with this Confederate flag, I'm going to say go to hell. All right. And number two is Florida did have this adoption of the Confederate flag when they're fighting for their independence. You know, here this is one for Shiloh, and here's another one here, the first and the third, and you know, it really was the Second American Revolution. 1861 was the Second American Revolution. As a matter of fact, I think the Florida governor, I can't remember the name. He was the Florida governor under the Confederacy. When the Confederacy lost, he committed suicide rather than be under the freaking rule of the Union. So don't think that these people didn't take this serious. I mean, they weren't fighting for their slaves. When the governor of the state of Florida, when it was under the Confederacy, actually committed suicide, and not that he was going to be killed because of the Union. None of these the Union didn't go around killing the governors of the states of the Confederacy. He just didn't want to live under the Union. And it has nothing to do with slavery. It had to do with states' rights, but way beyond that. Limited government and taxation that would be apportioned equally throughout the states. In other words, 80% of the money coming out of the South to fill up 80% of the revenue to the federal government coming out of the South was going all up to the North practically. That was really what this war was about. And you know, basically today, the whole game is you have a situation whereby even though the tax rates are higher at certain levels, there's so many deductions and ways you can get around things and tax-free foundations and stuff, and ways you can do like-kind exchanges and things, whereby the wealthy don't really pay the taxes. It's the poor people. Now, I'm going to tell you, even now, you heard two things there kind of put out that this boys' school, this Arthur Dozier boys' school, was primarily directed against African American boys. Not all African American boys. There was white kids in there too, but there was more African American boys in there than represented in a proportion of the population. And Jeb Bush didn't do a damn thing about it. He was worried about the flag up on the state capitol. Now I'm going to tell you something else. This is another thing, and Martin Luther King, I really don't have any respect for this guy. This guy is not like totally bad, but you have where and I don't really give a shit about his PhD being plagiarized and all this kind of crap, because I know that was another thing. I don't care about him even stealing the wives and stuff like that and screwing around with all the women as a minister. But the other side, what I really see with Martin Luther King is he was a communist-trained person, and that's why the media loves him. He was probably killed by the government. I wouldn't doubt it, even though they say the lone gunman. I think the whole plot was about killing him. Came from the government. I think it really was. There was a major conspiracy by the government to kill him. But putting him up in the front as the national hero, that was a feather in the cap for freaking the advancement of communism. As as Martin Luther King says, today capitalism has outlived its usefulness. This guy, I don't consider him a hero in any way. I'm telling you, man, I don't trust this guy at all. I don't think he would have gave a damn about anything if he was some person that had $50 million in the bank and he was making money off of screwing over black people. He'd be fine. That's what I think. This guy was a racket. And I don't trust most people that are religious, to tell you the truth. I don't like the Pope either, okay? And I'm Catholic, okay? I can't stand the Pope. So whatever the hell you want to freaking think, fine. But this guy, to me, here is a hero. And in history books, they'll tell you he's like the do-nothing president, Calvin Coolidge. And he said many things. You know, the business of America is business. He was getting back to not capitalism, but what you call laissez-faire capitalism, not the big bank capitalism, not the big business capitalism, but basically hands off the entrepreneurs from the government, deregulating everything, lowering the taxes and all that. This was Calvin Coolidge. And he was very much a spiritual guy, too. He realized, you know, the only way things work is through, you know, moral and intellectual honesty. But here he says, all growth depends upon activity. There is no development physically or intellectually without effort, and effort means work. Well, there you go, damn it. That's the whole freaking modus operandi behind getting anything. You know, I don't really give a damn about the I have a dream speech, you know. Yeah, I got a dream, too. I got a dream. I got a freaking island in the Pacific with freaking 8 million freaking blonde honeys in there and shit like that. And, you know, I'm banging a different one every day, you know. Fine. That might be my dream, but that's a dream, okay? All growth depends upon effort and work. Calvin Coolidge. You don't freaking dream, you make it happen. It calls work. This guy was an anti-communist, and if you look in the history books, they don't like him. They don't like him. They say he's a do-nothing president. Well, you know, this guy's to me, he's a hero. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing, too. There's a lot of stories. You know, I was telling you about the police, but these are two black Washington, D.C. officers previously arrested for child sex offenses, right? Pimping out a missing girl and all this last week, you know, a whole bunch of stuff, you know. Pimped out 2 girls under 18, reported missing. This was going on for quite some time. The cops were black, which I'm going to tell you right now, if you had a bunch of black cops, the black people are going to get screwed over. You don't need more cops, and it doesn't necessarily matter if they're white or black. You're probably going to get screwed over even more by the black cops, for all I know. But this was going on a long time, and it's like the tip of the iceberg. But the main problem is when you're talking about at the local level, or the police are involved in it, and say, you know, the governor's ship of Florida ignores what's been going on in this boys' school that primarily victimized black youths for 111 years. It tells you, you know, the problem is the damn government itself. That's 99% of it right there. You don't need more freaking rules, man. That's why I don't really like Martin Luther King. He was more like, yeah, we got to make a freaking rule for this and a rule for that. Well, you're a communist, you damn it. I don't like him. I don't like him. I mean, I don't like him. He's a communist. Now, I'm going to tell you one black guy I do like. We'll have to get down here a little ways, but I'm going to put out this other story because YouTube don't like this shit. I don't really give a damn. Screw you. Anyway, this was another story that if this was reversed, you know, if it was a white guy killing a black girl. FBI searches for teen feared to have been abducted, gang raped, and fed. Yeah, well, she was. Just a girl, real pretty. And I think she got involved with these guys thinking they were okay with her getting some drugs or something. I really don't know what the hell she got involved in. This was in South Carolina, right? And this guy that killed her, supposedly he's serving 25 years for an unrelated manslaughter case, right? But you'll never see this on the major media, man. Here's the guy right here, right? So he raped her, shot her, and fed her to the alligators. Nice guy, right? But like I said, the major media is never going to tell you this story. Um, Now, if that Confederate flag was about race, you could emphasize this story and you say, let's put the flag back up. But the problem is, the Confederate flag is about limited government, less federal power, and also the apportionment of taxes amongst the people evenly. In other words, if you tax the crap out of South Carolina, you don't give the money up to New York State. That's the game. So anyway, I forgot to put that out too, right? So getting back to, now here's a guy I think is a great guy, Mr. I don't know what his, Dr. Sebi. This guy, the government killed. I think the U.S. government killed him in cooperation with the Honduras government. He supposedly died of pneumonia in a prison cell. I don't even know if he died of pneumonia. Maybe he died of a poisonous injection. You know, Jack Ruby died of cancer, right? They injected him with cancer and gave him a 30-minute x-ray. He was the guy that shot Lee Harvey Oswald, who in turn supposedly shot Kennedy. You know, Lee Harvey Oswald didn't shoot Kennedy. They wanted this guy silenced. But I'm going to tell you, this guy right here, Dr. Sebi, he actually has a solution not just for health, but also, I'd say the solution for like what you might call positive psychology. A lot of times, and you know, maybe it's a theory, and maybe this is going to sound huggy-feely liberal, but a lot of the times, people are criminal partly because of the foods they eat. They get irritable. They find that they fly off the handle, or they're depressed, or they got anxiety, and a lot of it is from the garbage foods that they eat. Now, Dr. Sebi pointed out that one of the problems that black people face in this nation is they're not eating their African foods from their ancestors that can heal the shit out of them, body, soul, and mind. They're eating this stuff called quote-unquote soul food, which is some of the most toxic garbage going that ruins your entire system. This guy is a damn good guy because he had actually loads of white customers, I think, up from like Scandinavia and white people from South Africa. He had loads of customers. You know, he knew what he was doing. The FDA hates him. The medical people in this country are a bunch of freaking crooks. And they're all in cahoots with these, you know, save the children through freaking medication in schools and send them to, like, boys' camps or, which might be all right. I mean, at Florida, you know, I pointed out with the Florida Youth Ranch, that might be okay because they're outdoors, they're with the horses and whatever. You know, most of the cops are fine. There's some of them ain't. I know that. I'm not saying that I blatantly trust the cops, but, you know, that might be all right. But usually when you get involved too much with the government, especially at the top levels with the politicians, you can't trust any of these jerks. Now, I'd like to see a Dr. Sebi Day, get rid of Martin Luther King Day. I don't like the Martin Luther King. I don't like him at all. And because he's a blatant communist, and he's actually a guy that was not for what the American way was about. I mean, I don't give a shit he plagiarized his doctorate thesis. I don't give a damn if he screwed around with other women. You know, I don't really give a damn about that. I know a lot of people get mad at Billy Clinton because he freaking screwed around with women. I don't really care about that, but basically they're sellouts. But this guy was legit. This guy was legit, and he was murdered by the freaking powers. But you won't hear about him. The powers won't emphasize Dr. Sebi. I got a lot of respect for this guy. But anyway, and I got a lot of respect for Mr. Calvin Coolidge, our president back in the 1920s. When was he president? I forget exactly, 20 to 24? Or was it 24 to 28? And then Hoover came in 28, and he got held in a bag with the freaking stock market crash at 29. Oh, whatever. But Martin Luther King, he's basically a blatant communist. The FBI, I don't like, okay? I don't really like them. I know they were tracking this guy and spying on him left and right. And I don't like the FBI. I mean, they're all screwed up. But this guy wasn't one. He was a user, man. Anybody the major media pushes a real lot, do not trust as a rule. You know, that's the one reason I was starting to really trust Trump, because even though sometimes it was on the fence with him, I didn't know which way he was really going. If he was full of crap or what. But the more the major media attacks Trump, the more I trust him, to tell you the truth. And they are attacking the crap out of him. I don't trust the freaking Republicans, but I am a Republican, but I don't trust most of them. But I figured I'd just point this out. It's kind of like a hodgepodge mixture of different things on this video. It's not really centralized 100% about the boys' school, where the abuses have been going on for 111 years. But I'm actually not just telling you about that. I'm telling you that all these so-called governors that, like Bush, who hates this flag, Jeb Bush, he was worried about taking his flag down from the state capitol, whereas right in the same county, located very close to Tallahassee, all these abuses were going on and beatings of mostly black youths by heinous freaking state employees, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. And you know, like I said, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, they acknowledged about a third of them, and you know, they found 100 graves. If they acknowledged about 30 something, there's probably way more than that, because there's a lot of freaking places you can make somebody disappear in Florida with all the swampland and the hungry gators. I hope this Florida Sheriff's Youth Ranches is okay. I mean, I financially support it. Okay? I'm not knocking it. I hope it is. I hope it's something that's out in the open, that's not in, this, the room called the White House. I heard a couple things about this, but generally speaking, I think it's okay. I hope it is. Generally speaking, I do respect the Florida sheriffs, generally speaking. I don't trust all of them. And anybody that's lived in Florida long enough, you know that's an accurate statement, unless you're a naive Christian. Because I'm telling you, man, some of these freaking Christians live in a freaking bubble, man. They just don't want to hear it. They're just like, I'll pray to Jesus and that'll help it. Yeah, well, maybe it will, but you got to do a little more than that, Bubba. You know what I mean? Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of stuff not being told by the major media. And like if this guy was a white guy that looked like this, and you had this beautiful African princess over here, the major media would be putting it out left and right. But that's their game. That's their game. I don't really understand what the hell they're doing exactly. I'm going to tell you blatantly what I think they're doing. They're using the black population in the United States as a tool to advance communism. That's what they're doing. That's why they pushed this Martin Luther King guy. There's a lot of black people that freaking got. Well, you know what? If you listen to Dr. Sebi, your whole life is gonna improve. I'll put him as the #1 hero for now. But in the meantime, I'll guarantee you these type of things going on with the abuse of youths in all these different organizations. It could be anything. It could be psych wards and shit. I mean, you don't know what the hell goes on in there. It's not. Nothing has cameras. They don't have access. Once they grab somebody and they don't have family or something, they're screwed, man. They're screwed forever. Forever and ever. There's absolutely nothing. You lose all your rights. You're not a human being. You're a carcass to be used by the system for profit at the least, and by the worst, maybe beaten and tortured by some sadistic people. And, that's pretty much what goes on in the prison systems, too. I'm going to add on something to this, because my contention is all the prison systems, if they want to rehabilitate, they should be going along with stuff like this guy preached, Dr. Sebi. Now, you can't freaking, probably due to cost, you can't do all the stuff he wanted to do, but you could get like bags of powdered vitamin C ascorbic acid and other types of vitamins that are very beneficial, like, or maybe herbs like garlic and coconut oil, and also nicotinic acid, vitamin B3. A lot of times when you heal the body, you heal the mind. It's not all about, you got to find Jesus or something. You actually got to heal the body, which heals your mind. And when you heal your mind, you're going to be a lot less of a criminal. You're going to be rehabilitated. So actually, the solution to, well, I don't think, I tell you the truth, I think more than half the people that are in the United States prisons don't belong in there, period. But they really should rehabilitate through health and nutrition. They're not going to do that shit, though. They're not going to do that shit. This guy was a genius, and he never held a PhD, and he didn't go walk around like he was a minister. I got a lot of respect for this guy, and he's pretty funny, man. He's pretty funny because he says, a lot of stuff that's legit and very true, and he's a very wise man. But I don't like Martin Luther King. And it's not that I just don't like him. I already know what the deal is. Major media only pushes blatant communists. And I don't like the FBI, but in a way they were right about a lot of crap they were saying about him. They're right. They're right. So as usual, anything you get on the major media is complete scatad diarrhea garbage. Crapola. You're not going to hear about Dr. Sebi. You're not going to hear about Calvin Coolidge. You're not going to hear about some of the most heinous racist crimes going on in the States. Oh, you'll hear about a flag or something. Like that's the freaking issue. It's not an issue. Actually, yeah, the issue is because the flag stands for limited government and apportionment of taxes throughout the country as, what people actually paid into the system, and a weak centralized power. Because the more power these people get in government, the more they freaking use it to corrupt us and use it against us, and that includes the police. I mean, I'm fine with some police, but you don't need to have 8 million police out there protecting us so we can protect our own selves. And a lot of times, like that whole game is just something to, serve and protect the freaking government itself, even the police, right? A lot of them. I mean, it's a financial racket unto itself. So, not that I really dislike cops or nothing, because I don't. But it's like you got to have a limited amount. Florida seems to be okay with 4 freaking license plates for police, and 0 for the Confederate. And if they're worried about a freaking racial issue there, well, they sure as hell didn't worry about the racial issue that was going on for 111 years, where nobody ever freaking got in trouble or got indicted, and even the guy that beat the crap out of the black youth, Arthur Dozier, had the school named after him. So, kind of telling you different hodgepodge of things out here because, the only reason I'm actually on this YouTube is to tell the truth, and YouTube doesn't like people telling the truth. They don't like it. They're not too keen on that kind of shit. And Facebook especially, though. I'll never go on Facebook. They're scumbags. But if we need to freaking move on to something else, we will. We will. So over and out. And I gave you the whole 9 yards here plus some. And told you some things I think 99% of the freaking alternative media weenies would be afraid to say.